Welcome to Bible Project Podcast. Today, we continue our conversation on the Spirit of God, or in Hebrew, Ruakh Elohim.
One way of defining Ruakh, it's a invisible, personal, life-giving energy. It's the thing animating every living thing.
You only get 2 sentences into the Bible before you encounter God as Ruakh, hovering over the dark abysmal waters, ready to bring order. This is the biblical portrait of God's Spirit, creating and holding everything together.
Ruakh is intimately involved and present with all creation, sustaining its existence moment to moment.
Last week's discussion oriented us to how the ancients thought of Ruakh. It's the power that rushes through the trees. It's the energy we breathe into our lungs. It's the vitality that we have that lets us comprehend the world. In the Bible, this energy is a gift, and it's the very life presence of God's self. Humans cannot exist without it.
This is the biblical author's way of exploring humans as mortal, as not sustaining their own existence.
But the story of the Bible begins with an invitation to experience eternal life.
Whatever immortal life that humans are going to experience is not something they have of their own nature. It's something that is given to them as a gift.
Because humanity cannot exist without God's Ruakh, its very presence reminds us of our own frailty.
Job refers to God's breath as the only thing keeping him alive, but also it's the sign that he's not even sure how much longer he'll be alive, because it's not his possession. It was something that was gifted to him.
Today, we examine the inherent mortality of humans and the marvelous gift of God's Ruakh.
Ruakh is such an unmerited, undeserved, uncontrolled gift that it should humble me.
Thanks for joining us. Here we go. Hey, Tim.
Hey, John.
Hey. We're continuing this conversation on the Spirit of God.
Yes, we are.
And what we've attempted to do, just briefly in our last conversation was...
Or not so briefly. Yeah.
Try to get into the ancient imagination of this word, spirit. And actually, this is a pillar of ours that we talk about. The Bible is ancient literature.
Yes, right.
And so it's an exercise of not bringing our own present-day understanding of words and concepts and imposing them on the Bible, but trying to empathetically get into the imagination of the biblical authors and the way they viewed the world. It's challenging sometimes.
Yeah, it's an exercise in extreme empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I guess is about imagining the feelings of another person.
Yeah.
But this is about imagining the ideas of another person.
I've actually used the phrase intellectual empathy before to talk about this. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's what we're doing, specifically around the word spirit, but also our word wind and breath. And perhaps even mind. And there's one Hebrew word. Ruakh. So what does it mean to think of all those things together, and how does the Bible use that word? And what's your summary of our conversation?
One way of defining Ruakh, trying to capture a definition, which is like capturing water, with your hand. It refers to something invisible. You cannot see it. You see its effects.
Okay.
That's true of wind and breath.
Yeah.
And mind. It's personal. It's based on a conviction of the biblical authors that there is someone who is the creator of all that is, and the sustainer who's intimately involved and present with all creation, sustaining its existence moment to moment.
Okay.
So it's a invisible, personal, life-giving energy. So life-giving means it's the thing animating every living thing, but energy, and it's a thing animating non-living things. That is like wind in the trees.
Yeah.
Wind could knock down a tree. It can move waters. Whole bodies of water can be moved by the wind. So invisible, personal, life-giving, and animating energy. Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
It was really helpful for me. There was a moment where you said, when we think of the wind, we think of something physical because we understand the physical nature of air.
Yeah.
But an ancient thinker did not It was more like what you said, like a force, like we think of gravitational force or these kind of things.
Yeah, in our modern contemporary cosmology, the slot that is occupied by these mysterious, all-pervasive, reality-sustaining forces.
Yeah.
Gravity, electromagnetic, strong and weak nuclear, is the slot occupied by God's Ruakh in the biblical author's imagination. Now, it's not precise.
Sure.
It's not an exact, but it's pretty close. Because in our modern mindset, those forces may or may not point us to a person. More often, they're just stated to be impersonal laws.
Yeah.
So insert God's transcendent personal being into our concept of modern forces, and we're very close to the concept of Ruakh in the Bible. It's pervasive. It comes from the one who is above all things, but it also is the way that one who is above and beyond all is personally present, sustaining everything that is.
Yeah. And so this then frame invites us into some mysteries.
Yeah.
Which is when I see the wind moving through a tree, am I seeing God's personal energy? Or am I seeing God sending what I would call an impersonal force?
Yeah, something distinct from God.
Yeah.
Right.
And I want to make a clear distinction.
Yeah.
And are we saying the ancient imagination is saying, yeah, there's a distinction, but don't make it so sharp?
Yeah, I mean, these are almost impossible mysteries. But there has to be an absolute difference between God and creation from one point of view. Yeah. I'm not all that God is.
Yeah.
Like very clearly.
Yeah, okay.
Ask my wife. Or my kids. You know what I mean? Like, really I'm quite a frail, mortal, fragile being on many levels. So there's an absolute distinction between me as a weak little temporary creature and the infinite, eternal creator of all. But the only way for anything temporary and finite and small and frail to exist is to be so closely sustained and held in existence by God's Ruakh that another way to say it is like the way Paul says it. In God, we live and move and have our being.
Yeah.
In God, he says.
Yeah.
Or like he says in a little prayer at the end of Ephesians, the Father who is over all and through all and in all things.
Yeah.
Over all, through all, in all.
Yeah.
And he's holding together things that we find almost impossible to hold together. He's trying to.
Yeah.
And Ruakh is one of the ways the biblical authors are naming what is, from our point of view, like a paradox.
Yeah. Okay.
So invisible, personal, life-giving energy.
Okay.
What I'd like to do in this conversation is really hone in on ways in the Hebrew Bible that Ruakh is inviting us into the meeting place of life and death, or existence and non-existence. So spirit is associated with life. Breath is associated with life.
Yeah.
And I think what struck me in new ways was that in many cases where Ruakh in the Hebrew Bible is associated with life, in the context, it's very much also associated with the unpredictable nature of life and death.
I don't appreciate what you're getting at, so let's just get into it maybe.
Deal. Let's start on page 2.
Okay.
Okay, so there's 2 narratives at the beginning of the book of Genesis. The first is the 7-day creation story, and God's Ruakh is there, hovering, fluttering over the waters. The second narrative begins in Genesis 2, verse 4, with a little heading saying these are the birthings of the skies and the land. And it begins with a lifeless desert, and there's no plants, no human, and no water. So God provides a spring that pops up out of the ground. Surprise. And when the spring water saturates the ground, the narrative doesn't explicitly say, but it's pretty obvious what you're supposed to imagine. Mix water with dirt, you get
Mud.
What has been my entire backyard for about a decade with my boys is a huge mud pit that they love to dig in. So clay or mud. So what we're told then is something God does with that wet dirt. Genesis 2, verse 7, then Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh being the one who is, that's what it means, and it's the personal covenant name of Yahweh with Israel. Yahweh Elohim formed, vayetzer, it's the word used to describe what potters do with clay. Okay. Elsewhere in the Hebrew Bible, Jeremiah 18, kind of most well-known. So he formed Adam, the human, from afar min ha'adamah. So afar is dust from the ground. So we're talking about the topsoil.
Oh, okay.
And dust is the most common English word in our English translations used to describe this. But when I think of dust, I think of
like that.
Dry.
Yes.
Not wet.
Right.
For me, dust is the opposite of wet.
Yeah. So this is topsoil.
Topsoil. It's the top layer.
Moist topsoil.
And the ground is the word Adamah, which has all the letters of the word Adam in it. Human from the humus.
Yeah.
is one way to talk about it. And then dust is referring to the topsoil.
Okay. So human comes from the ground, molded from the ground.
Yeah. So that's one thing. God formed human from the topsoil.
Does that work, human from the humus? Humus can mean
I think
earth?
Humus is an old English word for the topsoil.
Is it? Oh, cool.
Also, the same letters.
As hummus?
From it. It's one of the most delicious foods.
It really is.
History of human food making. But anyway, it's different than the English word hummus, which refers to topsoil. Okay. Yahweh Elohim formed human from the topsoil of the Adamah, and he breathed into his nostrils the nishmat chaim, breath of life. And human became a nefesh chaya, a living being. So breathe and breath here, neither one of them's ruach, but they're synonyms.
Okay.
So breathe is from nafach, and then breath is from neshama. And they more precisely refer to inhalation, inhaling or exhaling. So ruach can be the stuff in the trees, in the hummingbird, in me, and the stuff in between. And the verb, breathe here, and neshama, breath, is referring to that stuff when it's coming in and out of my nose and mouth and throat.
Okay.
Inhalation or something like that.
Yeah.
Exhaling, exhalation.
Why use a different word?
Yeah, maybe we're emphasizing when the ruach of God becomes a gift to the human person, so that in a sense it becomes their ruach. We're emphasizing the human experience and possession of the ruach within their own body.
Okay.
And neshama signals that. This is the most common synonym of ruach. It appears 24 times in the Hebrew Bible.
Okay.
And often in interesting ways. And so this is one of them. So the dust here just signals the topsoil, like on the level of the narrative. And it comes up out of the ground. So on one level, humans are earthlings, like we come from the ground.
Okay.
What we know about the ground is that it's a neutral canvas that doesn't produce life in and of itself. It's material that cannot, this is in the narrative, because it begins with a lifeless desert.
It needed something more.
Needed something outside of itself.
The water of God.
But then when combined with that life-giving substance, it can generate life.
Okay.
And in this narrative, it's the water that God brings up out of the ground. But then also, humans need more than just the clay, like they're, as it were, material. They also need some life source, just like the ground needs something outside of itself to produce life. The human, once formed, needs something outside of itself, and that's the role of the divine breath. So I think
very clearly God's breath.
God's breath, yeah. But that becomes the human, thus the word neshama. It becomes
the human's breath.
Native to the human as a living creature. Theirs, so to speak. Quote, their breath.
Yeah.
So this is the biblical author's way of exploring humans as frail, as mortal, as not sustaining their own existence or originating their own existence.
For some reason, growing up, I had this image of humans being immortal in and of ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember you talking here about, look at how the narrative actually makes you think about it. It's not that the human is immortal. The human is dust, but then is given life.
Yeah, here, given life.
Yeah.
Like just base life.
Yeah, just base life. And then later in the story is given the opportunity to eat of eternal life, which is a gift from God outside of him. So, sorry, as an aside.
But I think that's important because whatever immortal life that humans are going to experience is not something they have of their own nature.
Yeah.
It's something that is given to them as a gift.
Yeah.
Now, humans are the kind of beings within the Bible that are capable of living forever. And in that sense, we image God. But we are also dust. Actually, we're to it. We're right to the thing that I want to highlight. So this is the beginning of the Eden story. If we turn to the end of the Eden story, after Adam and Eve's folly at the tree of knowing good and bad, when God sings his poetic lament over the man and the woman, what he draws to their attention is that because of their folly, they have introduced a grief into the very processes that God gave them for the gift of life. So he highlights reproduction, for women, conception, and the raising of children will be fraught with grief. Many of our English translations say pain, like labor pains, but that's not what it refers to or means, but grief. And then when he refers to the man, he talks about how the ground is cursed, and in that same grievous toil, you will eat from it all the days of your life. So instead of garden existence, where God just overabundance popping up out of the ground, to get abundance out of the ground now, you're going to have to...
A lot of work.
A lot of work, and it's a work that will wear you out. In verse 19, Genesis 3, by the sweat of your face you will eat your bread, until you return to the Adamah, the ground, because from it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you will return. So from dust to dust. That's the picture here.
Yeah. And so then what happens to this God breath that we were given?
I know. It's a great question that the narrative raises, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, you give it up. So I'm just going to stick within the story world as given to us. If I received it as a gift that was not my own, then when I go back to the ground, what else does that mean but a surrendering of the Ruakh, of the breath?
And if you watch someone die, you watch them take their last breath.
That's actually what happens. Yeah. And any creature, you surrender the Ruakh. I think what's significant is that this close association of dust and spirit is really important.
Okay.
Because what you'll find is that when dust or dirt is brought up elsewhere throughout the Hebrew Bible, I'm about to show you a bunch of examples, spirit and dirt or spirit and dust often appear in the same context. And the spirit or breath primarily signals a creature's fragile existence. In ways that more years I've sat with it, it feels really significant.
Okay.
So maybe that's just it. Ruakh, this divine breath spirit, as should signal in our minds when we come across it in the Bible as much the miracle of life, that life exists, period, and that I am alive. It's just a sheer miracle. And at the same time, the very fact that I have life should signal to me that I'm dying and that I'm fragile and mortal and my existence really isn't my own. And both of those feelings, I think Ruakh is meant to signal in certain passages. So should we just look at some?
Yeah, let's look at them.
So, in Genesis chapter 18, there's a moment when God told Abraham his cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, there's so much injustice happening, and the cry of the oppressed has risen up to him, that he's going to destroy these cities. And Abraham steps in, and he says, wait a minute, you're the judge of all the land. Won't you do what's right? What if there's people who do right by you and neighbor there in that city? And so when he introduces that intercession, what he says is, please, my Lord, I am being so bold to speak to you, even though I am dust and ashes.
Yeah.
That's how dust works in the Bible.
Okay.
I am dust, and so are you.
Yeah.
So this is used to much effect in the book of Job. There's many places where humans as dustlings are referred to. Here's just a couple examples. In Job chapter 4, verse 19, Job calls humans people who dwell in houses of clay whose foundations are in the dust.
Yeah.
So your body is a little clay house. And the foundation of your little clay dwelling that is your body is dust.
Yeah.
So it feels real. This is what I was trying to say in the last conversation. You and I think of ourselves as real.
Yeah, of course I do.
In one sense, we
Why
are.
do you keep telling me I'm not real? It's kind of freaking me out.
But dude, because we're going to die. And in 100 years, like no one's going to even remember anything about us. It will be like we never were. What you and I are is so fragile and temporary.
Okay, but that's different than real. Fragile and temporary.
Yeah, no, sure.
I think I know what you're saying, though.
Yeah. For you and I to have these experiences as real creatures, there must be something, or in biblical thought, someone who's the ground of it all, who precedes us, will be long after us, and who is so intimately related to every single micro part of whatever it is that I am, keeping it all going.
So to whatever degree you're real, that thing is more real.
Yes, that's right.
That's what you mean.
It's a relative real. You and I are relatively real. And that's what these passages are trying to say. We live in clay houses with dust foundations. The foundation of my house.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
Southeast Portland, a house that was built like 110 years ago. When we got the house inspection, it was the one thing that made us be like, should we do this? Is the foundation material is made out of river rock sand from the Willamette River, like right down a mile from my house.
Yeah.
And if I were to just start digging into it just with a hand shovel, I could just start
break it apart?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But then the inspector told us, every house in this entire part of town is built with this.
Yeah.
So I was like, so what about when the big one, the earthquake comes? And he's like, this is all toast. Because it's basically just being held together by it being compacted by gravity of the house lying on it. So it keeps it sturdy.
Yeah.
But the moment that foundation in the dust.
People listening, what you mean by the big one?
The big earthquake.
We live in constant kind of psychological terror of the fact that one day, any day, a massive earthquake could just destroy everything over here.
We live in the Cascadia subduction zone. Two huge tectonic plates.
To dust we will return.
Yeah, man. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. Okay, so I'm going to read Job chapter 10, verses 8 and 9, but I say them as my own words. This is Job talking to God. God, your hands fashioned me. You made me all together. And then Job says, look at my life now. You've also destroyed me. Please remember that you made me as clay. And are you turning me back into dust again? So Job's talking about his suffering and all the terrible things that happened to him. And this is the classic problem of evil then, for a conception of the world and of God that is core to the Jewish and Christian tradition, which is God as the source of all reality. If all reality only is real, relatively real, because it participates in God, what is God's relationship to all of the terrible pain and suffering and evil in creation? Right? That's the classic knot. The
problem of evil.
Problem of evil. And Job's exploring that in his own way. And he says, listen, you made me like clay. What this means is this is saying what human existence is in its nature is fragile and mortal. Yeah. It doesn't sustain its own existence. The only way it would even exist, and the only way it will have any continuing existence, is if God continues to provide the gift of the Ruakh. In other words, Ruakh is as much a signal of life as it is of the fragility of life. And this is why, especially in the book of Job, Job refers to God's breath as the only thing keeping him alive, but also it's the sign that he's not even sure how much longer he'll be alive because it's not his possession. It was something that was gifted to him. The nature of breath as gift both refers to the miracle of life and to
the fragility
of life. So in chapter 27, this is one of his moments where he's pretty angry at God. And so he says, as God lives, the God who has taken away my rights, the Almighty who has made my soul bitter, as long as I have neshama in me, and as long as the Ruakh of God is in my nostrils, I am not going to speak anything unjust. My tongue will not utter deceit. And what he goes on to say, essentially, to his friends is, you guys are accusing me of having done something wrong, and that's why I'm suffering. And I'm telling you, I haven't done anything wrong to deserve all this suffering. The problem isn't with me. I didn't do anything. So however this happened, it's God's issue. And I'm going to take up my issue with God. So that's one thing.
Okay.
But then what he's naming is the paradox, which is that the only way I can take up my case with God
is with breath that is a gift to me.
Is that if he keeps me alive. But my whole point is that he's slowly taking away my life.
But as long as I have a little bit left, I'm going to keep giving my case.
As long as. So that as long as is really a way of talking about the essence of the biblical picture of human existence. It's fragile, it's contingent, dependent, impermanent, temporary, but it's also a generous gift and a miracle. But also can't be taken for granted. That's Ruakh. As long as the neshama is in me, as long as the Ruakh of God is in my nostrils. What a bold phrase. The Ruakh of God in my nose.
Yeah. That one's sticky in my mind because it really forces me to not make a clear distinction between breath and Spirit of God.
Oh, sure. That's right. Yeah.
It really just jams them together.
Yeah, that's right. And isn't it great? It's poetry. The only real adequate way to address that. Yeah.
So I see what you're saying, that dust is about death. So you've got Ruakh and then you've got dust.
Oh, yes. Ruakh is life.
Ruakh is life. The dust represents this temporary, fragile, impermanent thing.
That's right.
Where the Ruakh is
That's good.
permanent.
Yeah. When you think of Ruakh as life breath, the biblical authors also want you to think about our nature as dust and hold those two in our minds.
Yeah, as soon as you start really reflecting on, I have life because of a gift outside of me, you are just one thought away from, I am dust.
I'm dust. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
So let's look at another poem that explores this in a surprising way. And it'll be similar ideas. We're just going to run through them again, but from another poet.
Okay.
The poet who wrote Psalm 104. Psalm 104 is beautiful meditation on creation. It represents somebody who has read and thought a lot about the 7-day creation narrative and the Eden narrative, because it joins vocabulary of both together in this poem. And it's just gone through and talked about how all of the creatures in the skies, the host of heaven, like the lights in the sky and the messengers, the angels, should praise God for their existence. It went through and talked about the creatures of the land and then the creatures of the sea.
Okay.
Kind of just moved through from top to bottom.
How they all should praise God.
And how they, literally in the paragraph right before where we're going to pick up in verse 27, the poet was just like marveling about the feeding patterns of wild goats and rock badgers.
Okay.
So kind of...
It's the order of creation.
Mm-hmm, yeah. So verse 27 begins with, all of your creatures wait for you to give them their food in due season. Every creature on the planet, when it is hungry, what it's longingly waiting for is the hand of God. You give to them, and they gather it up. You open your hand, and they are satisfied with tov, with good. So notice how the biblical authors actually have a nuanced way of thinking about cause and effect in the world. And so sometimes they'll talk about God as the provider or maker of something, and then 5 effects down the chain, somebody receives something. But often when they want to highlight God's intimacy with the world, they'll just put all of the cause-effect chain in a parentheses and just go, God to creature. Your hand feeds every little rock badger and wild mountain goat, direct from God's hand. Just like...
It's a very poetic way to think of a field growing grass as God's hand lifting up food for the animal.
Yeah. And ancient people knew that, there's all sorts of minerals
and seeds
and things in the ground that are important, and then air temperature. And they knew about the stuff way more than you and I do. So they know there's all these other links in the chain.
Yeah.
But they're thinking in terms of ultimate cause.
Yeah.
They talk about God. Okay, so verse 28, you open your hand, and every creature is satisfied with goodness. But if you hide your face, they are dismayed. So God gives with his hand, but if he hides his face, which is an image of loss of intimate connection, right? If you hide your face from another person, you're signaling a distance there.
Yeah.
If you hide your face, they are dismayed. If you take away their ruach, they expire and return to the dust. There we go.
Yeah. Their breath is gone.
Their ruach.
They're gone.
Their ruach. So you're like, I guess it's theirs. We're talking about it from the angle of it being their possession, as it were. But God can take it away, and does. God can and does take it away. And they return to the dust. Verse 30, but you send forth your ruach, and they are created. It's the word bara from Genesis 1, verse 1. So we normally think of creation as being the thing that happened a long time ago. And here create is used to refer to the new birth of every generation, of every species of living thing. So you take away their ruach, they return to the dust. You send forth your ruach, creation.
So I'm looking at a bunch of wild animals. I'm observing that at some point they die and they stop breathing. And I would say, as someone who believes in God who animates everything and is responsible for life, would say God took away their ruach.
Yeah.
And then I watch a baby goat come into the world and then have its first breath.
Yeah.
And I would say, God sent forth his ruach.
That's right. Creation. Let there be baby goat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the idea. So 2 things must be true about the Jewish and Christian conception of God. That God is above and beyond all, the one who is. God doesn't depend on something else to exist. God is existence. So there couldn't be anything more remotely different than God than a baby goat. None of those things are true of the baby goat.
Yeah.
But if God were to, and language fails us. That's why poetry is so important. If God were to show his face and shine his personal light, day one, let there be light, to bring about something that is distinct from God, but yet depends completely upon God for everything that it is. You could say that God is sending out his own Ruakh, that anything it is and every new breath of life of a creature is like this intimate kiss from God. Now, of course, there's a lot of cause and effect things that come in between. And we know that, the poets know that, but they want to shrink that chain up to say, ultimately, what we're really talking about is that anything that exists, especially a living creature, only exists because God is directly creating and sending forth his Ruakh for every living thing.
Yeah.
So it's a very powerful, beautiful view of reality.
And your point in this conversation is to say, look at the juxtaposition between life and death.
Yes, but that sending forth of the Ruakh is joined in parallel poetic lines with God taking away their Ruakh. So,
it is a gift.
That's right. So clearly this poet also is reflecting not just on God's ideal for creation, but also the fact that we're outside of Eden, returning to the dust. He uses that phrase from Genesis 3. So this is a meditation on God's relationship to a world that is intimately connected with God, to be alive, but also is estranged from God.
So in Genesis 2 and 3, you get this picture of humanity given the Ruakh of God, and then in proximity to God, being able to never have to give that up.
In the garden, to eat from God's life.
God would never have to take it back. You always get to have it.
But it wouldn't be because humans inherently possess it of their nature.
Right.
They receive it as a gift.
And it's only then outside of that reality and that proximity to God in that state that God says, well, you're going to return the dust. And so implicit in that is, I will take back my Ruakh.
Yeah. So really it raises the question of a reading of the Eden story. Why would God take away his Ruakh? God's Ruakh is infinite and eternal. So presumably if he allowed it to remain in a creature, it would participate then in God's infinite life. And so here we're to the severe mercy that the exile from Eden represents, which is if God's Spirit were to sustain the eternal existence of a creature that insists on asserting its wisdom of discerning good and bad over and against God's wisdom.
In which case they find pain.
Then that would be hell. To live forever in that state. So the severe mercy of the exile from Eden is as if God's infinite Ruakh is too much for the humans. It's too real. And
it's too permanent.
It's too permanent. And it's actually a mercy that humans can only live and do so much damage to ourselves and other people before we have to go back to the dust. It's like a mercy on ourselves and those around us.
Yeah, interesting.
But it's a part of the crisis of the biblical story then is like, but aren't we made for that?
For eternal life.
Yeah. We're capable of it. In other words, we've been made as a kind of creature that can receive it and participate in it and experience it. But yet, paradoxically, it's like too much for us. It goes to our heads, right? And we take this gift of breath and we do all these horrible things like we've been doing throughout human history. And like the Hebrew Bible is constantly all these case studies and people abusing the gift of breath that God has given them.
Did the goats get to eat of the tree of life?
I don't know. You know, what's interesting is the tree of life, as we talked about in our Tree of Life podcast series, was the common ancient Near Eastern icon, symbol. And in most depictions of the tree of life down in Egypt or Mesopotamian art and literature, it's actually a pair of mountain goats. It's funny you say that. The icon is a pair of mountain goats eating from the tree of life.
Yeah. Sweet. Good for them.
You know, and I never would have thought about this until within this last year, my family and I got a dog.
People want to live with their dogs forever.
And it's a regular conversation now with my boys about the gift of God that this little creature is to our family. And we would be sad to think of a future without Pippin. Or a little dog.
All dogs go to heaven.
So notice, this is a meditation about animals. This paragraph we just read in Psalm 104. And look at how the psalm ends. I will sing to Yahweh throughout my life. This is verse 33. I will sing praise to my God while I remain alive. Notice the note of...
I'm not going to be alive forever.
Relatively real.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So, may my meditation be pleasing to him. I will be glad in Yahweh while I remain alive. So it just signals that note. Like what's true of the creatures is true of me.
Yeah.
And I have this gift of Ruakh. I don't know how long. It's not even mine. But the good that I do get to experience as a result of being alive, I just am going to thank God for that every day. But it's God's prerogative also to take away my Ruakh here outside of Eden as that severe mercy. And when God chooses to do that, I'll return to the dust. And
that's it? That's game over?
Okay, dude. Here we go. Let's conclude with Ecclesiastes.
Okay.
The author of Ecclesiastes is pretty, is a realist.
Yeah.
About going back to the dust and really wants to probe the psychology and the feel of living outside of Eden. And the poet of Psalm 104 can sing a song about it.
Yeah.
I'll praise God as long as I remain alive. The poet of Ecclesiastes is a little more like Job. As long as I have nefesh, I'm going to actually say something that bothers me.
I'm going to complain?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to the manager.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3, it's the most famous poem in Ecclesiastes. There's been songs made about it. There's a time for this and a time for that. There's an appointed time for everything under the skies. A time to give birth and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted. A time to kill, a time to heal, a time to tear down, a time to build up, and so on. Goes the poem. So out here outside of Eden, things are not permanent, constant cycle of flux and change. And for every little Eden gift of birth and planting and healing and building, there is its opposite. Death and uprooting and killing and tearing down. And humans, we can't seem to escape that cycle of opposites. It's like we're trapped.
Yeah.
That's the reality
Yeah.
of life under the sun, as he puts it in the book. So he comes to the end of that poem and just says, so let me ask you this. For all of the work and the toil that somebody does in this world, what profit is there?
Yeah.
Everything you build is going to get torn down.
Yeah.
Your life is going to end.
What is the point?
Yeah. Yeah. So then he ratchets up a notch. In verse 17 of chapter 3, he says, okay, so I say to myself, here's something as an Israelite I confess is true. God is going to judge both the righteous man and the wicked man for a time in every matter and every deed. That's like classic.
What does he mean by that?
Oh, foundational beliefs of being an Israelite in the covenant. There is a God, that my decisions matter. Because the poem might make you think, well, everything I build is going to get torn down. My life's going to be taken away.
Okay. Why do anything good?
What profit is there?
Yeah.
Why do anything?
Okay. And then so here he's saying, well,
Yep.
God's watching and he will make a judgment on good and bad.
That's right. So he's holding together two things. From one point of view, I can't see from my limited, mortal, fragile existence the point of it all. I just don't know.
Okay.
And I can't control the outcomes of my life.
But God knows the point.
But I have this confession. God will hold people accountable for their choices. And it does matter. It matters cosmically. And the author of Ecclesiastes is living in that paradox. There is meaning and purpose. I confess that. But for the life of me, literally and metaphorically, I can't figure it out, and I won't be able to. It's actually beyond my ability. So he goes on to say, God is surely testing the sons of Adam so that they can see that they are but animals.
Whoa.
Because the fate of the sons of Adam and the fate of the animals, it's the same.
Yeah.
One dies, so does the other. Indeed, they all have the same ruach.
Yeah, we share that with the animals.
Me and that hummingbird. There's no advantage for a human over an animal. Listen, this is hevel. This is vapor. Everyone goes to the same place. Everyone comes from the dust. Everyone goes back to the dust. And then this is probably the most, risque. This is like the Job moment in Ecclesiastes. Who even knows if the ruach of a human ascends upward and the ruach of an animal descends downward to the earth? Who can actually prove that?
What's he referring to?
I know. So in Genesis 2, the Ruakh comes from God.
Yeah. But there's no talk about what happens to the Ruakh.
Right. Once you breathe it out. Just the human goes to it. So this image of the Ruakh of a beast going down, but the Ruakh of a human going up.
Yeah.
So he appears to be referring to some kind of idea.
What's after death?
What's after death and what happens to the Ruakh. So if the idea of a human Ruakh comes from God, Genesis 2, Genesis 2 doesn't describe the origin of the life breath of the animals.
Right.
It just says that God brought them up out of the ground.
Yeah.
That's what it says. So is it possible that the author of Ecclesiastes is addressing this kind of popular conception that's like, you think even in death there's a difference between you and the animals, that maybe the human Ruakh is connected to God, so it goes back to God in the heavens.
That we can exist beyond after.
And then maybe that the animals exist in a different way. This line would make my sons really sad about our dog.
Right.
But maybe that's where the difference is. But then his point is, who can prove that? You can't prove that.
We don't know.
We don't know. So even if you want to eke some guarantee of meaning out of how humans are different than animals in death, you can't really. You don't know. So it's so fascinating. I love that Ecclesiastes is in the Bible. Because he's saying from our experiential vantage point, we don't know.
Yeah.
And that lack of knowledge is and
that's what makes the resurrection of Jesus such good news.
110%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's fast forwarding in the story.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying to empathetically inhabit just Ecclesiastes.
I just see some people getting a little itchy.
Okay, that's good. But the vantage point of Ecclesiastes, just trying to meditate on life outside of Eden under the sun. Mm-hmm. We just have no guarantees out here from one point of view.
Yeah.
And that's true even for me,
yeah,
thousands of years later, as a follower of Jesus.
Right.
The only hope that I trust in is in the resurrection and new creation of all things.
Right.
But I can't prove that with certainty.
Yeah.
What I can point to is the testimony of the apostles, right? But over my own life and the outcomes of my life and my breath and what I want to build, zero guarantee. It's all fragile. Mm-hmm. So that's the main point I wanted to highlight. It's in all these passages where breath and returning to dust comes up. Breath is such a unmerited, undeserved, uncontrolled gift that it should humble me.
Ruakh is.
Yeah. That it's as much a miracle of life
as
it is a sign of my mortality and death.
Are we going to get into more about what happens to your spirit after you die? Will that be a conversation for later?
Yeah, we should, when we get into the prophets.
Okay.
And then in the New Testament, of course. But I also found there's merit in just sitting in these earlier parts of the Torah and prophets and Psalms and just letting these fundamental passages about spirit and breath and dust kind of sink in. It makes the good news even more good, I guess is one way to put it. So ending with Ecclesiastes is always a little risque.
Yeah. What is the point?
Yeah. So one of the surprises of Ruakh in the Hebrew Bible is that it's associated with life primarily, but second place award of most common associated ideas of God's Spirit is wisdom.
That's related to wisdom.
Yes. The Spirit and life and the Spirit and wisdom are all closely connected. And so what I'm going to look at next is spirit and wisdom. And actually, I think we'll see how deeply connected it is to the stuff we've just talked about for the last couple episodes.
Great. Thanks for listening to this episode of Bible Project Podcast. Next week, we'll look at how the Spirit of God gives wisdom to humans.
If you look in the hundreds of passages where Ruakh appears in the Hebrew Bible, you will find many passages where God's wisdom is close by.
Bible Project is a crowd-funded organization, and we exist to help people experience the Bible as a unified story that leads to Jesus. Everything that we create is free because of the generous support of thousands of people just like you. Thank you so much for being a part of this with us.
Hi, my name is Ciara, and I'm from California.
Hi, my name is Taylor. I'm from Rogers, Arkansas, and I first heard about Bible Project when doing some landscaping for a job a couple years ago.
I first heard about Bible Project from my church, who was showing some of their videos, and I've used Bible Project for evangelism and just showing my friends what I've learned.
I primarily use Bible Project for understanding scriptures that are particularly challenging.
My favorite thing about Bible Project is just how they make the stories come alive and all the animation and the drawings as they speak.
My favorite thing about the Bible Project is the centrality of Christ throughout all of the scriptures. We believe that the Bible is a unified story that leads to Jesus.
The Bible Project is a nonprofit funded by people like me.
Find free videos, articles, podcasts, classes, and more on the Bible Project app.
And at BibleProject.com.
Hi, my name is Angela Kiter, and I am from Eugene, Oregon, and I work on our global team. I work as a localization project manager, specifically with our Brazilian Portuguese and our French teams to create our content into those languages and deliver them to those audiences. I grew up in SoCal, 30 minutes from Malibu. I do think being exposed to a large diversity of culture through food, through religion, through activities of different backgrounds gave me an appreciation of it that I've always felt like, oh, I want to know what it's like to live in that person's shoes. That gave me a passion that I've really been able to have realized through my work at Bible Project. There is a whole team of us that make the podcast come to life every week. For a full list of everyone involved in this episode, check out the show notes wherever you stream the podcast and on our app. Thank you.